other houses out there as well. So it's like right now, if your house is ready to go, and why wait? Because you're the only game in town.
Right.
So if you're the only game in town, you're getting all the buyers coming to your house.
The buyers are out there and they're ready to go. So you put the right plan in place and you can get what you want. Last time we met to talk about what we were seeing in the market. The new market data has come out, this week. We're taking a look at something from Broker Metrics. So why don't you just walk us through a little bit of what you're seeing in the market in terms of the important metric, days on market, list price, where are we looking?
And the reason why, kind of backstory, the reason why I like to do this is because every month it's new data. So at the beginning of February, we go on a platform, it's called Broker Metrics, where it takes, say in January, everything that went active, and we're going to use Frederick County just to simplify it. So everything went active in Frederick County in the month of January. Everything went under contract in January. Everything that's sold and closed in January.
So this right here is the most accurate data for our market, right? Not anywhere else, not the overall housing market. This is real-time data.
This is real-time data, correct. Yeah. And you might find some similar stuff on the MLS, but this is something that we get. It's just a different, it's all the same data.
Gotcha.
But it's something for as a buyer and seller, you may not actually have access to this data. So if we're speaking to other realtors here, then there's a good chance that they're probably seeing it as well.
Correct.
But we're here to more so inform the buyer and seller out there, so that way they know how to prepare for the year.
Right.
So to kind of give you an idea, so I like to break down the past 2 years, that way we can see what happened in January of 21, January of 22, and then January of last month, 23. And honestly, what you can see is everything is just right on track. The holidays, it's that time of year. Everything's just less inventory. That's probably what you're seeing. It's what I'm seeing. You see a little less activity out there.
Right.
And we're probably projecting to go up a little bit more in inventory. And
Seasonality.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah, it's just that. It's just the season.
Yep.
And then if you notice, kind of like on the trend here, we're going to have all of this information once we upload the video. But you'll see the actual trend. Like say in January of 2021, we had a little bit more inventory. I wouldn't say a little bit, actually a good bit more inventory. Fell down in March, but came down in February, skyrocketed in March, and then it just picked up back into the spring. Getting to 22, same thing. January had a little bit more than February. Then, of course, March kicked in and skyrocketed back up. And then that's what we're getting into again in this year. So
that March skyrocket, that March has been like our anchor point. We using that March as sort of the start of this market, right? That's where things started to.
Technically, the spring market starts in the beginning of January, because it's just game on. But then we are starting to see, because at that point, the holidays are over, buyers are ready to go. They're like, okay, let's find something. Sellers are typically a little bit more behind, because they want to wait for the winter to be over, so that way when they're taking photos of the house, it's not gray, it's not gloomy, it's not snowing. You can see the green grass, you can see the flowers. That's a great point.
You want to make sure that the pictures are looking good, and
it's all about the marketing and the photos.
That's
why you see March picking back up, because then getting into April gets even, there's more inventory. Getting into May, even more, June, July, it gradually increases. So it's just all about seasonal. It's a roller coaster.
Sure,
it goes up and down.
Sure. And it's also important to know that was probably the low of where those interest rates were, right? After that, they started to go up. We started to see some of those changes towards the end of the summer.
Well,
really.
Not necessarily. So last year was an interesting year, because one thing that showed, I think we went over this in episode 1 too, is that so last year was interesting because, say, February, about March, was interest rates started taking an increase. You no longer got below a 3%. So around March, around a 3.75. And one thing that showed us is just because interest rates increased, sales price didn't.
That was one of the most eye-opening things, I think, to buyers. Buyers who were waiting for a drop in sales prices assumed, okay, as soon as the interest rates tick up a little bit, those prices are going to come down. But there's still a lot of demand out there, and looking at this month's data, looking at how it's played out over the past few months, one of the major changes is the number of houses that are available. That inventory has gone down.
Right, and because of that, we've also seen sales pricing go down as well too. So one thing we saw last year is the average sales price skyrocketed like $50,000 to $85,000 above the average price of what it was in January, March. Now, because getting to higher interest rates and closer to the holidays, that's starting to come back down a little bit, which is great for buyers, but it's still competitive out there as well. Because if you see a house that great price, great condition, great location, checks off all your boxes, that means somebody else thinks the same thing. So that means you're still getting into a competitive
And that's
situation.
probably one of the most interesting things about, what we're seeing. Even though you're seeing prices start to come down, the rates, they leveled off. That's the most important thing, that they're not as volatile as what they were. They didn't go from 3 to 7. 3 to 7, you saw that little shock. That's where activity started to slow.
Everyone was just, where are we going to go? Are we going to go to 13s? Are we going to go to the double digits?
And now that they've leveled off, you are starting to see some normalized buyer activity. But with that said, it is going back and forth where you're having a lot of competitive situations. It's not like houses are sitting, prices are coming down, meaning there's not enough demand for the supply that's out there. For certain properties, there are still multiple offer situations that you really have to get out there. I mean, you just dealt with one recently, didn't you?
I did, yep. And so did another agent on our team. It was same situation, actually. It was, we're the only offer in town until like the last second, and then another offer comes swooping in. Right. And actually, I had two multi-offer situations over this weekend. So this one in Frederick County specifically, it was for land, and then we were the only offer. We offered cash listing price. I thought it was great. Then the listing agent was like ghosting me, wasn't getting back to me. I'm like, okay, something's weird. Come to find out, another offer came in she didn't tell me about, but she liked the way I work, thought that we were very clean, professional, built some rapport with her, and they chose us, which was great. Another situation was found that perfect price, perfect condition, perfect location house that we've been looking for a very long time. And we went for it, had great terms, went over the listing price, active for 1 day, and within that 24-hour period, 10 offers, including ours, came in. Smoked us. Like we got blew out of the water. We didn't stand a chance, I'll say that.
And while that is going on, you're also seeing some homes that are in awesome condition, in great locations, that are on the market for 20 plus days too. Like these are both happening at the same time.
Yeah, and that's where it gets really interesting, because we are seeing that, and that's where it comes down to how you want to prepare yourself for this year.
On the sell side.
On the sell side, yeah, because we're not seeing what we saw in the past 2 years. You can't just throw a number on your house and just list it and then you're going to get what you want. I don't think that's the case anymore. I think if you do prepare it, you have a pricing strategy and you have a marketing strategy, I think you're going to get exactly what you're looking for or more. But I think if you're just having your seller just wants to throw it up there, like, this is what I want. Yeah. Nothing else.
It's a beautiful house, according to me.
You're not prepping. Everything yeah. All my memories, all the sentimental moments.
Sure. Unfortunately, they don't have a return on investment on most things. You have to have that selling strategy, like you mentioned. You have to have certain things in place, but also have that expectation of, oh yeah, the market's good. There's plenty of buyers out there for properties that look like this. I should get $25,000 above what I'm listing. And it's all, having that conversation of that selling strategy, but also saying, hey, this is scenario A, this is scenario B, C, and D. Are you okay with either of these? Which one is where you want to go? Which one do you want to avoid? And then preparing it in that same way.
Right. And because, that's right. And because of what happened, buyers are starting to be a little bit more particular about it, because it's a big investment and it's harder now. And so they are being, so far from what I'm seeing, I don't know what's going to happen, but so far from what I am seeing is that they are becoming a little bit more picky and choosy in what they want. Like, I'm not just going to go out there and see this, house that could use some updating, needs a new roof or whatever, and then not envision what they can do to it. And then they wait for the perfect one to come up. Right. And then that's when we get into essentially a bid or a competitive situation.
Sure. We should probably use this as an opportunity to ask the buyers who are out there listening or watching now, what are you seeing out there? What do you feel is a struggle for you in terms of looking for that perfect property? Have you been in a multiple offer situation? Have you been prepared? Is there anything that you are expecting to see coming up, or what is it that you're looking for going forward? Let us know.
Yeah, that's a big thing. Like, let us know, like, what are you expecting? What are you hearing that maybe we're not hearing, or maybe you're hearing a different story, having a different experience? Are you expecting? I'm hearing a lot of people, they're afraid of like the market crash. Is that what you're afraid of? Is that what you're hearing? The economy? Yeah. We want to hear it all, so that way we know better on how to essentially prepare ourselves,
and that's part of
helping out.
The benefit of working with an agent, right? An experienced agent, because you have that, wealth of experiences, having dealt with every type of buyer, having dealt multiple offer situations over and over again, and then being able to present that, to sometimes people coming in for the very first time, they only have their idea of how it's gone. But if you've got 100 transactions, you've seen so many different ways how it could go, and you're just going to give the best advice. And it's that is the main value that we would offer, so that the buyers or sellers have that to lean on and say, well, what have you seen and what can I expect?
And it also helps like switching gears to buyers, because you want to have, again, a good strategy for a buyer in place, the same as a seller, because at the same time, sure, like you are seeing, let's just say, an investment property or a property that does need a little bit of work or some renovations or something. You do see it probably priced more than what you want. I get it. Like, I wouldn't want to spend $500,000 on a house that needs like a total reno or needs a lot of work. That to me, it's just not an investment.
Sure,
the resale value may be there, but I just know I'm not a very handy man.
Right.
That's why I pay contractors.
It's going to eat into the profit margin. It's not really going to make it.
So what I'm really trying to say is that's why we have a strategy in place, because then whenever something does come off that checks off all your boxes, 100%, I guarantee you, I have yet to see it not happen, that it checks off somebody else's boxes, and we are going to compete against at least one or two other people. The only way we can avoid that is if we find something off market, or if we do see that property that checks off all your boxes, but the price is high.
Right.
And then we can maybe negotiate.
Something's got to, you've got a sliding scale of that price, location, and condition, and where you give one, you have to give another, and it's going to have the effects. And probably the most important thing in the market would be to be prepared, right? To have all of that set up ahead of time, so that when you're encountering these things, it's not when it's game time, right? You don't want to worry about multiple offer situations when you're in one. It's better to have that conversation ahead of time.
That's right. Set the expectations and be prepared.
That way they know, and those plans are in place, so that when you're ready to go, hey, this is what we talked about. What types of conversations are you having with your buyers? What types of conversations are you having with your sellers that you're using?
So with my with my sellers, I'm going to start there. Is pretty much what I was just explaining when we sit down to have the listing appointment. I want to let them know. Like, I asked them, okay, what do you think your house is worth, and what do you think we can do to the house to get it to sell where you want it to sell? And if someone comes to me for my advice, which most do, I'll give it to them. And I'm saying if you are looking to get what you want out of your house or more, if it needs work, I'll let you know that I suggest that we paint, we do what we have to do to get it there. Are you willing to do that? That's the biggest question, because if you're not, we maybe have to have another, this is option B. This is, okay, well, if you aren't willing to do the work and you just want to sell it, this is what we're going to have to do, is adjust the price to get it to go there.
There's going to be the pros and cons, and it has to be specific for certain people. The pro is, that time-wise, we're ready to go now. The con could be we might be risking a lower sales price ultimately if we don't do this work.
Right. And if you are willing to do the work, then I have a strong feeling, I can be very optimistic and positive that we could get it to go where it needs to go in the market that we're in, because that's what I'm currently seeing. Because I'm also seeing houses that aren't in that updated look that everyone's looking for. Are probably the ones that tend to sit there a little bit, unless they sit at the lower price to still gain the traction to get it to go where it needs to go.
And especially if you're using that as a home to sell contingency, if you've got to sell that property to buy the next one, a lot of times, making sure you get that top dollar, but also knowing that the house will be liquid, so to speak, ready to go. It's not going to sit on the market for multiple days. That way, when you're buying, you can write a competitive offer, and feel comfortable with that.
Right.
So something else to keep in mind.
Yeah, and when you are a buyer, setting your expectations and being ready. This is the most crucial one too, because it's hard out there for buyers. Because I would say with buyers. So even as a buyer, you want to set your expectations, because then if that's what you are looking for is an HGTV house or something turnkey, we need to have you prepped and ready to go. We need to have that conversation with the lender, figure out what your finances look like. Do you need help? Do you need a gift? What can we do to essentially have the funds available in case we get into a multi-offer situation with your down payment, your closing costs? Can we get you to 20% for an appraisal waiver?
Right.
Anything at all to benefit you to get you your house.
Basically, having everything done ahead of time. That way, when you show up to take a look at a house, whether or not you want to write an offer, you could. Mm-hmm. Everything is in place. Everything has been talked about. The plan is there that if you show up, you love it, okay, great, let's go.
That's right. Do it all up front.
Getting ready.
We mentioned it many times, the buyer consultations and speaking with the lender. That is the most important step of everything, because what we want to do is help you, help the buyer with setting your expectations that get you your house. We don't do this just because we think it's fun or we're just trying to make a sale or whatever. We do this because we want to make sure we are preparing you to get into your house, because we know we do this every day, how hard it can be. So it's just that cruel. Like I don't know how. I'm just trying to find like other ways to say it, I guess. But like it just, for me, it's just very crucial that we do this, so that way we set your expectations. And I mean,
it's not the most fun to sit down and kind of be interviewed. It's not the most fun to have to talk all about it when you want to get out there and you're excited to take a look at where you're going to be living, and shopping is
finances, fun. Like that's a hard one too. Like nobody wants to sit down and have someone questions like, all right, well you shop too much. Like last thing you want to do is have someone tell you like you need to stop shopping because you're spending, all your money at Target in the month of, January, and now you can't buy a house because like you're going to Target too much, or whatever. Maybe it could be Starbucks, Chick-fil-A.
That sounds very specific. Target, Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, I mean,
we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, don't even know about my where I shop and where I eat.
That's right.
But yeah, I mean, it's just very crucial, or it's just very important to know and get that part and get that straightened out off the get-go.
Sure.
Because last thing we want to do is lose constantly and over, and then you're frustrated and then running around. We never get you in anything.
Right.
We have to have those same conversations.
Eventually you're going to have to have that conversation.
We had a great offer. We did everything I know we could, but if we would have just did this, or we could have done that.
Do you remember when we talked about that and you said, oh, well, we'll get back to it, or, this won't happen. Don't worry, I got it. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and let's just see what happens.
Let's just see what happens.
Let's just see what
one.
happens.
I
want to wait.
See what happens.
Wait and find out, and then we find out.
And then we find out. So that is pretty much what we're seeing now. The market still is competitive. The numbers are still kind of what they are.
Yeah, I mean, just kind of like showing over, like the inventory has obviously gone down. It's just because of the holidays, and just based upon, again, the graph that you're going to see here, it will come back. It just has. There's just no way it's not going to. And it's just being prepared for March and then April as well, so that way when we do see the house that we want, we're prepared. And same thing for sellers. We want to prepare you, because again, like, don't wait until March, because then in my opinion, if you're waiting until March or April to list your house, then you're going to be competing against other houses out there as well. So it's like right now, if your house is ready to go, and why wait? Because you're the only game in town.
Right.
So if you're the only game in town, you're geting all the buyers coming to your house.
The buyers are out there and they're ready to go. So you put the right plan in place and you can get what you want. So with that, we'll probably wrap it right there.
Yeah, I think it's a good spot.
Is there anything else that you want to say to the buyers or sellers that might be watching?
I mean, as always, like, if you have any questions or anything at all, like maybe experiences or just anything in general about the process or what you've seen, maybe you're seeing or hearing something different, you just want to bounce ideas around, or just to let us know what you are hearing, let us know, because then I'd love to be able to chat and pick your brain about what you're hearing, because we want to be able to hear it all, and maybe there's something we're missing that maybe we don't know. I don't know.
Absolutely.
So, what did it say? You don't know what you don't know?
That's exactly right. Yeah.
All right. Till next time.
See you soon.